What would you do if you found your mom's hidden letters and they proved your entire childhood was a lie? I was cleaning out my mom's attic after she passed when I found a locked metal box behind the water heater. The rust scraped against my palms as I pulled it from its hiding spot. Dust exploded into the air and I started coughing. The lock was old and I managed to pry it open with a flathead screwdriver. The metal groaned and then snapped apart. Inside were dozens of yellowed envelopes bound together with a faded ribbon. My fingers trembled as I lifted the first bundle. The return address showed a name I had never heard before. I pulled out the first letter and unfolded paper so old it crackled. The words at the top read, "Please bring my daughter home." My hands went numb and the letter slipped onto the dusty floor. I picked it up and read it again with my heart slamming against my ribs. The date on the letter was from when I was 3 years old. Someone had been begging my mother to return their child. I sat down on an old trunk because my legs could no longer hold me. The wood creaked under my weight. I started opening more envelopes and each one was worse than the last. There were letters from lawyers demanding custody hearings my mother never attended. There were letters from a man named William calling me his baby girl and pleading to see me. My throat closed up and I had to gasp for air. A photograph fell out of one envelope and landed face up on my lap. It showed a man holding a toddler who looked exactly like the baby photos my mother had shown me my whole life. The man had my eyes and my crooked smile. I flipped the photo over and read the handwritten note saying Daddy and Rosalie forever. My name is not Rosalie. My name has never been Rosalie. Somewhere downstairs I heard my phone ringing but I could not move. The sound echoed through the empty house 3 times before stopping. I told myself these letters must be about someone else. Maybe my mother had a secret sister or a friend she was helping. I grabbed another envelope and tore it open so fast the paper ripped. This letter was from a hospital in a city 3 states away. It confirmed that a child named Rosalie Bennett had been discharged into the custody of her mother Patricia Bennett. My mother's name was Patricia. My birth certificate said I was born at the local hospital 20 miles from our house. I dug through the box until I found a small folder at the bottom. Inside was another birth certificate that looked nothing like the one in my baby book. This one listed Rosalie Bennett born to William and Patricia Bennett in a completely different state. The father's name was listed as William not deceased like my mother always told me. I dropped the folder and papers scattered across the attic floor. My vision started tunneling and I had to put my head between my knees. The man who wrote those desperate letters was my father and he had been alive my entire childhood. I grabbed my phone and searched the name William Bennett with shaking fingers. His face appeared on my screen and I almost dropped the phone. He looked like an older version of the man in that photograph. I scrolled through his profile and saw posts about a missing daughter. There were photos of me as a toddler shared thousands of times over the years. I found a news article from 23 years ago about a custody dispute that ended in a disappearance. My mother had lost the custody battle and instead of handing me over, she ran. I called the number listed on his profile and a man answered on the second ring. His voice was tired and soft when he said hello. I asked if he was looking for Rosalie. The silence on the line lasted so long I checked if the call was still connected. He whispered, "Is this really you?" My whole body started shaking and tears ran down my cheeks onto the dusty floor. He told me he had been searching for 23 years. I stood up and paced the attic while listening to him describe the day I disappeared. My foot caught on a loose board and I stumbled into the wall. He explained that my mother had taken me during a supervised visitation and never came back. I found more documents at the bottom of the box showing fake identities she had purchased. There was a social security card with a different number than the one I had used my whole life. There were school enrollment forms with lies written in my mother's handwriting. She had invented an entirely new person and erased the daughter William Bennett had spent his life searching for. I heard his voice crack through the phone. He asked where I was. I gave him the address and he said he would be on the next flight. The call ended and I stood alone in my dead mother's attic surrounded by evidence of her crimes. My entire childhood had been constructed from lies and forged documents. Every birthday and school memory existed because my mother had kidnapped me from my real family. The father I thought was dead had been very much alive and posting about me every single year. I found cards he had sent that my mother had hidden instead of giving to me. There were presents still wrapped in faded paper with my real name written on the tags. I opened one and found a necklace that said Rosalie with a small heart pendant. I put it around my neck and the clasp clicked shut. The metal felt cold against my skin. I gathered all the letters and documents and carried them downstairs. I set them on the kitchen table and sat in my mother's chair. The house was silent except for the clock ticking on the wall. In 36 hours, I would meet the father I never knew existed. I pressed my palm against the pile of letters and waited for everything I knew to finish falling apart.